Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another live stream. How's it going, everybody? Just give me a second while we set up here. You already know the first few seconds, minutes, of a live stream. I gotta make sure we're all hunky dory on my end, especially since, we're in a new studio, new home. We're still trying to get everything together. Hopefully, the sound is coming in okay. I got a little bit of music in the background. I'm in an echoey room right now. Got a lot of echo in here. Hopefully, the echo's not so much. I got a fan going on and things like that. So, anyways, just trying to work everything out, trying to get all the kinks out. In the meantime, today we're going to be talking about banking and banking solutions out here in Mexico. And again, the reason I'm making this video is because of recent controversies that we've been having in the banking sector out here in Mexico. So that's what we're going to be talking about today to make sure that, you guys have nothing to worry about when it comes to banking because, if you can't bank, then you can't function, period. End of story. Doesn't matter where you're at. It's just, part of today's world, the world that we live in. And unfortunately, if you do not, have a banking solution, if you don't have your banking set up, if you don't have that situation settled, then you're going to have a problem, a major problem. And, again, today's video, and why I'm doing a live stream is because I've done videos on this before. I've done shorter videos, kind of laying out the facts. And we're going to do that today. But I'm also going to be sharing with you guys a lot of scenarios and even my own personal scenario when I first moved out here 7 years ago. And long story short, I did not have any kind of banking solution whatsoever. It starts with having a banking solution in your home country, in the USA or wherever you're from. To most people out there, I'm talking to other Americans out there. The reality is that for many of us, the reality is that you gotta have a bank in the USA. You gotta be banked in the USA first before you can come out here and have a solution. Now, again, even if you're not banked in the USA, you can still bank out here. So again, these are things that I learned the hard way because, again, in my case, when I left the USA, there is such a thing as being so poor that they don't even give you a bank account. And especially if you're not, buying into the system, meaning, collecting benefits and, integrated into the system. Because you know how it is when you're very, very poor, they incentivize you to sign up for a bunch of things to get a bunch of free stuff. But if you got a little bit too much pride and don't want to do things like that and want to continue working, they make it even more difficult for you. And they don't even give you a bank account. And many times you got to get like a paycheck from work, assuming, they give you a paper paycheck, and you got to go on ahead and figure out go on a check cashing place, and they got to cash your check, and it costs a lot of money. But anyway, that's another story for another day. That's not what we're talking about here. But we are, again, there are situations out there. There's many of you guys out there that have trouble with banks or banking solution. You don't even have a proper bank in the USA. I'm still one of those people. I still don't even have a proper bank. I use an internet bank, and that's my US bank. And through that bank, I'm able to, again, function because I'm an American citizen, and that's part of the deal. But still, regardless, through the years that I've been living here, I was able to eventually, once I got my residency, I was able to secure a Mexican bank account. And basically, I do most of my banking, my day-to-day banking goes all through my Mexican bank account because I live in Mexico. And my US bank account is only for certain things, necessary evils that I kind of have to maintain one. But the longer I'm here, the less attached I am to the US per se. So, but yeah, long story short, for many of you guys out there in the audience, for the majority of you guys out there in the audience, you will never ever be disconnected from your US bank account. And of course you have that US bank account, but the reality is that if you're going to be living in another country, like again, Mexico in this case, you need to secure yourself a Mexican bank account, or you got to have some sort of banking solution. Because again, just in case you're not aware, they do not accept US dollars in most of Mexico. Sure, if you go to Cancun or Acapulco or Tijuana, certain tourist heavy locations or certain areas that are right on the border, that deal with the USA daily, then yeah, of course, there are places that will accept dollars. But again, it all depends on the exchange rate. If the exchange rate is not in their favor, they want pesos. And if it's in their favor, they want dollars. So it just depends on who you're, what the situation is. But long story short, you need to figure out not only exchanging pesos, but being able to do this on a regular basis, and what your solutions are going to be for these things. So again, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Sorry about my long-winded, how do I say this? My long-winded, one second here. I'm trying to get something on the side. All right, sorry, my long-winded intro, but I just wanted to let you guys know kind of like what we're in for here in today's episode, okay? And by the way, so again, today we're walking around El Parque Centenario here in Merida, Yucatan. This is the local zoo, and it's free. And so a long time ago, I did a video just walking around, talking as I usually do. But I said to myself, hey, why not walk around the zoo and show you guys the animals, while I'm talking my crap. I don't even know what I'm talking about in this video, but it doesn't matter. I was able to capture the footage of the animals and hang around the zoo. So I figured, hey, I don't have any banking videos, and it'd probably be pretty boring to just show you a background of a bank. So I figured, hey, why not walk around the zoo while we talk about such a boring subject as banking? But it's a very necessary and important subject that many of you guys need, to know info on. By the way, please let me know if everything is coming in clearly, because again, as I was mentioning in past live streams, we got a brand new studio. We got a brand new setup here, brand new internet, brand new sound, everything. So I want to make, hopefully, please, I'm guessing everything's fine. You guys would have let me know. But especially with the internet, I want to make sure the internet is coming through clearly. I got Starlink. So far, so good. Today, we got clear skies. The last few live streams, we were thunderstorming out there, and we were able to, power through. But I am switching, services on Starlink, and next week, I should have a faster service. So hopefully, less interruptions, or, just better quality or what have you. But again, so far, so good. Seems like everything's running hunky-dory okay over here. But anyway, so one of the reasons I'm doing this video, again, you know how it is, usually every single week, I have a different subject, different topic, what we're going to be talking about. And a lot of times it depends on even what's going on the daily news out there. So the reality is that last week, as I'm brainstorming, trying to figure out what I'm going to talk about this week, there was a situation in which a few banks, popular banks, that exist out here in Mexico, that that give bank accounts to a lot of you guys out there, a lot of expats, a lot of foreigners, Americans, Canadians. Well, all of a sudden, those banks have been put under investigation by the U.S. government, and apparently under control by the Mexican government. And I don't know what's going on with those banks, but it's not looking good, in the sense of for anyone out there that might have a bank account with any of these banks. And for many people out there, the reason they have bank accounts with those banks, I'm talking about Intercam Bank, and there's a couple other banks out there. I don't know what the other banks were they're implicated in, but very similar to Intercam Bank, from my understanding. They are banks that have ties to the USA, and they are banks that facilitate getting bank accounts for people out there that don't even have residencies. Okay, and so the reality is that once you get your temporary residency, you can get a normal bank account with a Mexican bank, nor any Mexican bank. But a lot of people out there have, again, just like what we were talking about with immigration last week. A lot of people out there in the audience have been misinformed on the whole banking situation, because the thing is that everyone else out there is like, oh, Jose, the only reason that we go to Intercam or we go to these other banks is because all the other banks, the regular traditional banks, meaning BBVA, Banco Santander, HSBC, whatever, Banco Azteca, whatever, all these Mexican banks, City Banamex, whatever, Banamex, there's all these banks, I don't know, Banorte, whatever, they all require for you, to have your RFC. And if you don't have your RFC, then you're never going to get a bank account. And in order to get your RFC, especially these days, it's like, not, I don't want to say impossible. Nothing's impossible, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like so difficult. And by the way, I inquired because when I got my RFC, I got it a long time ago, and it was actually really easy. I was like in and out. I got my RFC. I had nothing to worry about because, again, I've had my residency for years now. I can't believe it's been so long, like over 5 years. So yes, I know, I know. Citizenship is next. But with that said, when I, for example, when I got my RFC, it was easy. But subsequently, as the years have gone on, to get the RFC has been more difficult. What is the RFC? I know some of you guys in the audience are. What is he talking about? The RFC is basically your tax ID number, from SAT. So your tax ID. And so long story short, for a lot of us, that come from the USA or Canada where, the laws are different. I don't want to get into all that. That's not what this video is about. I don't want to get on a rant about your rights and the Constitution and blah. Anyways, but look, long story short, in the USA, they require you to allow them, to look at everything you do, including your bank account. There's no privacy. It doesn't exist. But in a country like Mexico, they still have privacy. They still have these things. So when I kept hearing over and over and over again through the grapevine, that, oh, I can't open up a bank account. You cannot open up a bank account unless you have a tax ID. And I'm like, but how? Why would the bank need a tax number or a tax ID? That's illegal in a sense, unless you have like a business account or some other certain account in which you have to declare, certain taxes. You have to declare certain movements. But when you just have a private account, a savings account, a normal account that any private citizen has, they have no right, no legal recourse ever to look into your bank account. They need a warrant, to look into what's in there. And for what? You know what I mean? So look, long story short, again, in the countries of the USA and Canada, is when we're living there, we're already used to and accustomed having zero rights, have them being taken away, crushed to a dust. They don't even exist. We don't have them. And forgot. Many people even forgot that they had them to begin with. All right, and what they were. Okay, so again, the right to privacy is one of the founding foundations, okay, to the U.S. Constitution, the U.S. country, the country that doesn't exist anymore. So, and that extends to banking and all this other stuff. So, long story short, in Mexico, they don't require these things just to open up a normal bank account. Now, guess what? Through in the last few weeks, you know what I mean? Like I had a friend of mine that basically asked me, "Hey, Jose, I need you to help me open up a bank account. I know you've helped a few people. I know you've opened up your own and you've helped a few people, go and open up a bank account. Can you help me out?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course, of course. It's a dear friend, no problem." You know what I mean? So, whatever, we just set the date. Okay, we're going to go on Tuesday. Bob. Just make sure to get your passport, your residency card, and a Mexican phone. All right, no problem. All right. And then, anyways, so a few days before we go to the bank, basically, they talk to me and they say, "Hey, Jose, I can't get a bank account. I was just informed by another friend that I need an RFC and I don't have an RFC and I don't know what to do." And And I'm like, huh? Like, no, you don't. I've already heard this rumor multiple times. I know for a fact that you don't need an RFC. So why? And anyways, long story short, I went on ahead and I called a few people that I knew and I trusted, all right, about this. And they all told me the same thing. It's like, yeah, you need an RFC. And I'm like, the hell do you need an RFC for? I know what and I'm like, no. No, I am not going to settle. And by the way, I don't want to mention names, but like I said, I talked to people, man, high up, Mexicans, high up. And I'm like, the hell, this is so weird. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make any sense at all. You know what I mean? So whatever. Literally the day after, I found myself, right by the bank. Okay, I had to, I was buying something at the grocery store, whatever. And I found myself by the bank, and I'm like, I'm here. Let me just go to the bank. It's right here. Let me just walk over there real quick. Let me talk to the bank and let me ask them. Let me see. Maybe things changed. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It happens all the time, right? You better believe me. All right, all right. Relax, bro. Relax. She's anyway. So, look. Long story short, I asked the bank, and the bank, and so I go to the bank and I go, "Hey, look, I have a friend. They are an American foreigner, and they want to open up a bank account. What do we need?" And he says, "Oh, all you need is your passport, your residency card. By the way, don't forget to hit the likes, subscribe, all that crap. Anyways, all you need is a passport. All you need is a residency card and a Mexican phone." And I'm like, "So are you sure? Is that it?" Because I've been hearing rumors. I've been hearing over and over again, which I know they're wrong, but I just want to confirm. I don't want to waste your time or my time. Do I need an RFC? Do I need a tax ID number? No, no. Why? And he goes, "No, why? Why would you need one? That doesn't make any sense." No, no, no. Especially for the account that you're looking to open. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Are you sure? Look, bro, I see there's nobody in the bank. Can you do me a favor? You know me already. I come here all the time. Can you do me a quick favor?" Hold on, I gotta let Gizmo. But I go, "Can you do me a favor? Can you go over to your supervisor, all right, and just ask him real quick?" "Oh, yeah, yeah, sure, no problem. Give me a second." All right, he comes back. He comes back and he's like, he goes, "Yeah, I just asked. All you need is your passport, your residency card, and a Mexican phone. That's it." I'm like, "Really? All right, no problem." So I went back, you know what I mean? And I told my friend, "Hey, guess what? Boop, 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 boop. Oh, really? Boop, boop. All right, we're going to go tomorrow. I don't want to waste any time. Bah, bah, bah." All right, so we went the next day, and guess what? We opened up a bank account. Easy peasy. All right. The most difficult aspect of opening up a bank account is the same as everywhere else. You got to sit there and you got to wait while they do all the paperwork, ask you to sign a bunch of papers, all the other stuff that it takes. Okay, that's it. Other than that, 2 hours later, after walking in, she had her bank account. We're good to go. Okay. All right. What bank was it? BBVA. All right. I don't like talking, and whatever, mentioning my bank or whatever. I'm extra paranoid in case you don't know. But anyways, long story short, look, I got to mention it at this point because it's already been so many years. You know what I mean? And whatever, So look, BBVA has been my bank. All right, and that's the bank that I open up for everybody. So look, I don't know if you go to Banorte or if you go to another bank, they might get difficult. I know they get difficult. We're going to talk about that in a second. I understand how things work out here in Mexico. I've been living here for over 7 years. So again, there's different things. And so sometimes they are difficult. Sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they whatever. So look, let me give you an example. When I came back the next day with my friend to open up the bank account, all right. I go in and the greeting, there's always a greeter, like a greeting lady or person, guy, whatever, at the bank, at every bank. Okay. And so the greeter wasn't the guy that I talked to the other day. It was just some other greeter. I know her. She's, whatever. So I go, "Oh, hey, how's it going? Hey, look, I'm here. We're going to open up a bank account, yada, yada, yada." And she's like, "Open up a bank account?" "No, no, you can't. They can't. Foreigners can't open up a bank account." I'm like, "What do you mean? I was just here. I talked to that guy and that talked to that supervisor and they just told us." And she goes, are you sure? I'm like, "Listen, you know me already. I've been here a bunch of times." And she goes, "Oh, okay, all right, whatever. You talk to him, all right, whatever. You know what I mean? You got the stuff." Boop, boop, boop. And she gave me the thing. And sure enough, as soon as I got my name called, they're like, "Oh, hey, bop, bop, bop." And that's it. We got the thing. We got the account. But just like what I mean is like, the thing is that people are under the impression that everything in Mexico is exactly like the USA. It's not. So even on the day that we went to open up the bank account, we were already like, we were halted at the door. "No, no, no, no. What are you doing?" And I had to literally, like, hey, I had to kind of like push myself in the door. "No, wait a minute. We just talked to the guy. We just did da. Okay, so that's what I mean. So because that's what happens. A lot of times, right now, a lot of you guys will watch this video. And you're like, "Okay, great. I can open up a bank account." You go to BBVA and you talk to the teller. You talk to, not the teller, the person at the door and tell them, "Hey, look, I'm here to open." And they'll tell you straight up, "Oh, no, you cannot. Oh, no, you need this. Oh, no, you need that." And then you have to like tell them, "No, I know what I need. I know that all I need is a passport, a residency card, and a Mexican phone number. That's it. Oh, and in this case, as of now, the last few times I've been opening up a bank account, the only other thing you need is that you need in the case of BBVA 4,000 pesos, to put into the account, which is the equivalent of $200. Okay. And so with those accounts, with that I've opened, the last couple accounts that I've opened, they need to keep a minimum of $200 in that account, or they get they get charged a fee. Since I opened my account so long ago, all right, and again, I've done all kinds of things with them, that it's a different story. I don't have a minimum with my account. My minimum, I keep like 5 pesos in there sometimes, which is like 50 cents. But that's the thing. And so like the reality is that for a lot of you guys out there, what happens is that you go to the bank and then you get stopped at the bank by someone that is just a minimal employee. They're basically, the most bottom rung on the ladder of employees at the bank, and they're nice, they're great. I'm not trying to say nothing bad. It's just that they're only there to hand you a little ticket. They're only there, as a greeter, like the Walmart greeter. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to Walmart. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the bank. How can I help you? Oh, I need to get something from the ATM. Oh, well, here's the ATM. you know I know it sounds pretty dumb, but that's kind of like what they do. Okay, it's like, oh, I'm here to deposit some money. Oh, okay, no problem. Go over here. Oh, I need to talk to the manager because with a loan that I have. Oh, okay, no problem. Sit over here. We'll, put you in touch with and that's what they do. So they don't have all the information. They don't know anything. So that's what you need to know, and you need to come informed. And so that way, when something like that happens, you'll be like, no, I know that I can open up a bank account. Sometimes even the person that's in charge of opening the bank account, they just don't want to work. All right. And they'll be like, no, you can't do it. No, I'm busy. No, you got to come back in a week. No, you got to come back. So you're going to have, sometimes it'll be smooth. It'll be very easy. You'll go in there and you'll be able to get it done. But sometimes you got to come multiple times. Sometimes you got to like push your way through. Sometimes you might even have to go to another bank, another branch. Okay. For me, I have had no problems at all opening up any accounts with anybody. I have had those issues that, I get to the bank and they're like, oh, no, you can't open it. Oh, are you sure? Oh, but, that kind of looked a little bit of a pushback. But as I push right back and with the info, with the knowledge, remember, I have an advantage in the sense that I speak Spanish. Not only do I speak Spanish, but I'm an American. One of those Americans that are like, hey, I know my laws, I know my this. So long story short, I went as far. I have gone as far. I've never done this, I've never had to do it at the bank, but I've gone as far as to go to the banking website. Here, I'll show you real quick. All right, so you can get an idea. You can get a there's, again, all the banks have their website. But anyways, like I said, I've gone as far as go to the website. Again, I speak Spanish and I go deep. Sometimes I get bored. This is how I have fun sometimes. All right. I know I research, right? So anyway, so I go deep into like the laws, the bylaws, the papiri parapuroops. And look, long story short, like I found it and I have it somewhere saved. I don't know. I've never had to use it. But look, long story short, it tells you right there. They cannot deny you that this is what they need, and that's it. So long story short, meaning if it ever came to it, where the bank is like saying, no, we are not going to open up an account. Be like, hey, no, listen, bro, it says it right here on the banking website that you have to open up my bank account. So do it, or I'm calling 1-800 BBVA, whatever the hell. All right. And then you explain it to them why you don't want to open up my account. Okay. Like that. Straight up. And so, yeah, like that's a reality. So look, that is, that's, how you get your bank account, so the whole thing with Intercam and the RFC and this, because look, when I was looking into, getting the RFC, for my friend, because I thought that we needed it. Oh my God. I was like, are you kidding me? Because, at that point I go and I talk to Jose Novello, since that's what he does. And I was like, oh, it's like that. And I was like, oh, no way, man. Are you kidding me? It's gonna take forever. You know what I mean? It's like, no, this is not an option, and it's not, you don't need the RFC for anything, so like I was like, no, I know what it is, and how the laws work, or what the bank really requires. And look, the one thing I want to mention here, okay, this is one thing I really want to mention here. that it's not just for this topic, it's for all topics. Okay, even last week when we were talking about immigration, all of you guys hear rumors all the time. Okay, you guys hear rumors all the time. Okay, oh, you need X amount of money to get residency. Oh, you need an RFC, a blood sample, and you got to give up your first child to get a bank account. Oh, I need blah 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 for this. Oh, I need blah 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 for that. And all you do is hear these things. And by the way, this goes out to the same people, that I reached out to, okay, before I went to the bank myself to ask. That they dropped the ball because they did the same. They were just going by what they hear, by what other people tell them, because they haven't opened up a bank account forever. So, but anyways, long story short, what I mean is that you hear all these things, but nobody ever, 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 ever does the due diligence of literally doing a little research. And in this case, all it took me, okay, was to casually walk into the bank and ask the bank, hey, bank, what do I need to open up a bank account? Oh, this is all you need. Are you sure? Are you double sure? Are you triple sure? Yeah, I'm double, triple, quadruple sure. Was that so hard? Was that difficult? And so that's the thing. A lot of you guys out there, again, it's not to your fault of your own. I've done it a bazillion times. You know what I mean? But sometimes I'm a little hard headed. I don't know if you guys have figured that out. I'm hard headed. And so, and so because of that, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? I have to, you know what I mean? Go and take it the extra mile. And so I've done that. Not just with this, but with many other topics. Again, this is why so many of you guys, have helped support the show, and so many of you guys have, love, everything I do here, because I'm just giving you the actual information. I'm not trying to, what is it? Damn, what's a word I'm looking for? I'm not trying to pussyfoot around it. I'm not trying to sugarcoat things. I'm just giving it to you raw. That's it. And a lot of times, most of you guys, that you appreciate that because you get the raw information, and you get to, again, you get to either do it on your own, or you get to just hire somebody to do it for you. But at least you know what is up. And many times you'll go to hire somebody and be like, and they'll tell you, oh, you cannot open up a bank account. I'll be like, you know what? Listen, man, I'll get somebody else that knows how to open up a bank account. That's it. It's not even about that. Okay? It's like, I know. Jose told me. Jose has plenty of whatever. Like I said, man. And again, just go to the bank yourself, man. Sheesh. Anyways, let me read a few comments here. Rod Sharp says, all foreigners only need a passport, electric bill from your own country. Oh, yeah. By the way, you're right. I forgot. That was the one thing that you need as well. You need a electric bill, but it doesn't have to be from your country. Like, how it works is like this. When you live in Mexico, you get the power bill, the water bill, okay? They get sent to your house, but they're sent under the owner's name. So again, most of you guys are going to be renting. If you're renting, then the bill is under somebody's name. Okay? Anyways, that bill under somebody else's name, okay, meaning it could be any bill from anywhere. Anyways, long story short, that bill is just your address. It's a proof of address. It's not like in the USA where you have to have a real, like, super hardcore proof of address. No. Like I said, all you need to do is just bring a bill. Okay? So anyway, yeah, you bring a bill. Obviously, if you own the house and the bill's in your name, that's what you bring. But for the most part, you just bring wherever you're staying at, Airbnb, if you're staying at a rental, whatever that is, that's your address. That's you bring that proof. Okay, so that bill, it doesn't matter if your name is on it or not. That does not matter. But anyways, so you need the proof of address, which is a bill, whatever bill. Okay, water, electric bill usually suffices. And again, passport, residency card, and a Mexican phone. Why do you need a Mexican phone? Because that is where you put the Mexican banking app so that you can bank. You need the banking app. Everything is done with the banking app. It's same in every country, okay? But yeah, again, so as Rod Sharp is saying, it's like all you need is a passport, electric bill, from where you're living, the residency card, and that's it. Oh yeah, and by the way, the reason I'm doing this is because Intercam, along with a couple other banks, they're not available for banking anymore. And so the thing is that I'm telling you guys out there that you can get a normal regular bank account, okay, from anywhere, okay, from any Mexican bank. You don't need Intercam, okay. Because the thing is that, yeah, with usually what people were doing is that, they were just going to Intercam because they're not really asking for anything. Again, you can come out here on a tourist visa. You can open up an account with Intercam without even being a resident. Okay, just on a tourist, permit or whatever. That's really the truth. But the thing is that very recently, last week, a couple days ago, whatever, Intercam Bank is now under investigation by the U.S. government, alongside a few other banks. Therefore, you cannot get a bank account with them anymore. So Intercam is not you cannot use Intercam anymore. Intercam is not not an option for anyone anymore for the foreseeable future. But what is an option? Every other Mexican bank. Okay, like I said, I literally just opened up a bank account with BBVA last week. Literally last week. Okay, last Friday. Okay, so 6 days ago, I opened up a bank account there, and all we needed, okay, was residency card, temporary residency in this case, U.S. passport, 4,000 pesos for the savings account. By the way, so all accounts are savings accounts, whatever. Anyway, so the bill, the CFE bill, and the Mexican phone. That's it. That's it. Okay? No RFC. Okay? No tax. No nothing. All right? So you do not need an RFC. Let me repeat. You do not need an RFC. By the way, I explained it all already earlier. Okay, so please, if you did not get that information, just rewind the video or rewatch the video. I went through all the information. Okay, so we got to move on to other things because I got a lot of things to talk about here. So long story short, I've mentioned it multiple times on the channel throughout the years. I'm tired of talking about it. I have multiple videos talking about it. I literally opened up a bank account 6 days ago. All you need, last time I'm saying this, okay, for today's live stream, or maybe I'll repeat it later. But anyways, all you need, Mexican residency card, temporary or permanent, U.S. passport or Canadian passport, a CFE bill, again, your electric bill, does not have to be in your name, just a bill, and a Mexican phone number. Mexican phone, so they can put the Mexican banking app on, and 4,000 pesos. Now, this could vary, okay? The 4,000 peso deposit could vary. In my case, when I opened it years ago, zero. And some, the last few times it's been 4,000 pesos. Sometimes it's 1,700 pesos, whatever. And all these accounts are savings accounts. And again, every account, so by the every Christian's account, every account that everybody has is a savings account. Because most people in the USA, we got a checking and we got a savings. But in Mexico, it's all savings. If you have other accounts, that's business accounts. Those are the ones that might require an RFC for obvious reasons. You're doing business and you got to pay taxes, okay? But for a savings account, which is the account that everybody has, so you might have to ask that. Again, sometimes it's in how you ask these people, where you're talking, whether you're talking to the bank or immigration or whatever. And so you got to go, yo estoy buscando una cuenta de ahorros. Okay? I'm looking for a savings account. Most people already know what account you're looking for because that's the only account available for citizens that are just looking to bank. And that's all. Okay? Citizens meaning humans, okay? Whether you're, Mexican citizen or a resident or whatever you are, okay? But you do need residency. If you do not have residency, then you cannot get an account. Okay? All right. So Intercam is not an option anymore. So before last week, some of you guys, anyone could have come to Mexico and opened up a bank account on a tourist visa with banks like Intercam. But again, the U.S. government, Trump, whatever, they have, they're cracking down. And Mexican President Sheinbaum has taken over the bank. So who knows? Look, I don't know what's going on with those banks. I don't have an account with them, whatever. Okay, so, but just FYI, okay? But that's a different story for another day. Anyone that's doing that kind of banking, is probably not watching this kind of video anyway, because it's like, again, some of you guys have a lot of money and resources, and you come out to Mexico on a tourist visa. You want to buy a property, you want to buy a home or a business or whatever. And so you would use Intercam as an intermediary to help you get the money from point A to point B to purchase XYZ. And that's it. But that they've been cracking down on that. Like I said, the U.S. government started cracking down. They're under investigation started last week or something like that. So I don't know what's going on with all that, but they put a stop to that. It has nothing to do with Mexico, and it has everything to do with the U.S. government. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, for all of you guys out there that are just for all of you guys out there that are residents and just looking to be residents, and all you're doing is looking for a banking solution, having a Mexican bank for your personal banking or your business banking or whatever it is, then you can go on ahead and get yourself a Mexican bank. Okay. The only time they might ask you eventually for an RFC, because they will ask you for an RFC for opening up a bank account, is when you're getting a bank account that is more than just regular banking. So if you want a bank account that is more than just your regular savings checking account, then yes, you need to provide an RFC again for business and other things. Okay, so again, if you're looking up to open up a business and that's your situation, well, then at that point you got to call Jose Novello. He's the one that deals with all that stuff. But other than that, if you're just looking for banking, regular banking, you can go and do it yourself. You can hire someone like Stephanie on my website. Okay, and she can go with you, to translate, to get the things done, to make sure that you get your bank account. And that's it. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty easy. All right. So, okay. So let me read some of the comments here, real quick before I go deep, into the other situations here. Walt says, do you think one can open up an account on a tourist? No, you cannot. Again, as of now, you cannot. Okay. You have to get your temporary. Rod Sharp says only U.S. citizens and the government, not Canadian. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so if you're Canadian, you can still work with Intercam. But again, to me, are you sure about that, Rod Sharp? Because look, Intercam Bank, okay, the reason that they're able to do what they do is because part of the bank is in Mexico, is Mexican, but the other part is in the USA. It is the Mellon Bank of New York or something like that. So that might still affect Canada because again, it's an American bank and a Mexican bank that paired together to create Intercam. So if the U.S. government is investigating that bank, it probably will still be affecting Canadians because the U.S. government is investigating a bank that's in the USA. You follow me? But again, I don't know enough about this. I'm just using common sense, just trying to put it together here in my head. I mean, I would not, I wouldn't have. I'd be worried. If I had an Intercam account and I'd be using it, I would be worried. And if I was thinking about getting an Intercam account, I would not be getting one now at all. Period. End of story. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter, whether it doesn't matter if you're from Mars. I mean, think about it. It doesn't matter what country you're coming from. Would you want to deal with a bank that is now being investigated and has been taken over by, being investigated by the U.S. government and, have been taken over by the Mexican government? I don't know about that. So yeah, either way, you know what I mean? Just again, use at your own risk. Again, don't listen to me for everything. Don't listen to Rod for everything. Rod might be 100% correct. I might be 100% incorrect, or we might both be correct in our own ways. You know what I mean? So either way, I don't know. I suggest for anyone else, anyone interested, to do a little bit more research. There are tons of articles talking about this out there. All you gotta do is just Google it. Google it. Google Intercam, blah blah blah, banking situation, and then you'll know, because again, even though they're getting investigated, I don't think it's starting right now. I think it was going to start in a few weeks, like at some point in July. So just FYI, all right. So now, up until I opened up a Mexican bank account, banking for me out here was a little difficult. Now, the plus side to living in Mexico is the fact that, well, most of Mexico, the majority of Mexico is, cash only, or, a lot of cash friendly, very, very cash friendly. And so since that's the case, that helped me a lot, because I didn't have to worry on having a digital imprint. I didn't have to have a digital bank account. I didn't have to have a digital, WeChat. You know what I mean? I wasn't in China where everything's digital. No, 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 no. It was all cash. So long story short, when I first lived here, and I didn't even have a bank, I didn't have an American account. Like I had no American bank account and no Mexican bank account. How the hell was I going to survive out here? So what I did is that I actually had a lifeline, back in the USA. Thank God, my aunt. Thank God to my aunt, Auntie. Shout out to my aunt. She was the only one out there, real one. Anyways, but my aunt, she was the one that I had to use her bank account. You know what I mean? So she let me use her bank account. And again, thank God that, Auntie was, she wasn't, rich or anything, but, she was well enough, that she was already almost retired. So she had another bank account. I think she gave me like her savings account, whatever, some account that wasn't really, there was no money, nothing going on in there. Anyways, that's the account that I use. So meaning whenever I would get paid by a client, again, back in my early days when I was working still, and I was working, so my client was in Los Angeles and, I had to do a video for him, whatever it was, anyways, and they would pay me. I was like, hey, just send me a bank transfer, send me a PayPal, send me a whatever, and it would get deposited eventually into that account. And so long story short, what would happen is like my money would go there, all my money, and then eventually she would send me the lump sum through. All right, 1 second, I'll show you. Where were we? By the way, this is how I survived for many years when I first got here. All right. She would send the money through MoneyGram. That's right. Now, at this point, today's world, there are multiple, things like this, that move money. MoneyGram, obviously Western Union. The reason I used MoneyGram is it was the easiest for me at the time. But anyways, long story short, she would just send me the money through MoneyGram, and I would collect it in cash at the Walmart. That's right. So she would basically, send the money through MoneyGram. All I had to do, okay, was go to Electra, which is a store in Mexico. Okay, so either go to Electra, Banco Azteca, same thing, or Walmart or other subsidiaries. Anyways, I would go there and I would just go with my passport alongside the number that I got from my aunt, the transfer number. And that's it. I would just give them the transfer number, give them my passport, and I got my cash. Obviously I had to pay fees, but that's how I survived. And so I just survived on cash. I was in Mexico. I didn't need anything but cash, so and that's what I would do sometimes. This is back in the day, man. This is like, again, when I first got here and I had nothing. And some of you guys, early fans, some of you guys that are still around or whatever, you guys remember, you guys would send me like $50 through MoneyGram, $100 through MoneyGram, whatever. It wasn't much, but whatever, you know what I mean? It wasn't, wow, it helped a lot back then. And I would have to go all the way, to walk in the heat and then suffer just to get my $50. All right. Or what have you, which was like a godsend, But again, this is like 7 years ago, all right? 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Eventually, once I got with Christian, once we were together, well, she had a bank account. So I was able to now, instead of having to, let's say, go to MoneyGram, I would have like my aunt, deposit that into her account. And then we would just use her ATM card. Eventually, I was able to get a US bank account. Okay, with one of those internet banks. There's a bunch of internet banks. So I was able to get my US bank account. And then eventually I would just deposit into my US bank account. And then after that, I got my residency, a little while after, me and Christian were together. I got my residency and I got my own bank. And then that's it. I would just then receive my payments still to this day and through that bank, and then deposit into that bank and, my US bank. And then from there, I would do the same thing that I've done throughout the years since I've been here. I would just in one lump sum, move it to my BBVA account. And that's it. Most of it I would always cash out and then, work with cash. But, I've learned through the years, I'll keep some money in my account so that I can, pay for Uber easier. It's a lot easier to pay with the card, right? Certain movements, it's a lot easier to use the card and use electronic payments. But long story short, I had no choice but to do this. Okay, my MoneyGram was an option. Back then, there was still no such thing as dollar app. For anyone out there that's more curious and want to know more about the dollar app, you can go to my own website. Okay. By the way, pardon if Gizmo's barking right now because we got the garbage guys out there. So, anyways, so we he's saying hi to the garbage peoples. All right, they're friendly. Hold on. Anyways, so anyways, on my own website, you can go right there to it says Mexican general information right at the top, and again, you've got tons of free information, all right, on everything from rentals, finding a job, questions asked. But anyways, right here, you're gonna find the dollar app, and you're gonna find a video that I did explaining everything, okay, about the dollar app and how it's used and all that stuff. Okay, so I said highly suggested. But what is a dollar app? Well, long story short, it's like the Cash App, but for Mexico. So you know how you have the Cash App, and basically you can sign again. Why do I have a Cash App? Because you can open up a Cash App without even a bank account, for crying out loud. So long story short, dollar app. By the way, if you do want to use a dollar app, I do have a link, a referral link. All right, so just click on there where it says dollar app. Click on it, and it'll give you the referral. You see? All right. And I don't know what the referral does these days, but still, I don't know. Maybe it'll give me a few bucks. I don't know. I never used that thing because I never really had to. But I wish I had the dollar app when I first moved here, because if I would have had the dollar app when I first moved here, I would not have had to, play musical chairs with my aunt and her bank account and all this other stuff in order just to get my money every month. All right, I would have just been able to use that, because what the dollar app provides is it provides, guess what, a U.S. bank account. It gives you a banking number, routing number, something. So long story short, you can get the stuff deposited there, and then it also gives you a Mexican bank account. So it gives you both, and you don't need anything. The only thing that you need is to prove that you're living in Mexico with a CFE bill. You don't need residency. You don't need nothing. All right. So long story short, anyone can sign up for a dollar app card, and you can function in the Mexican economy and get your pesos. Again, I did a whole video on it. In fact, I might as well just kind of maybe play it in the background real quick. Hey guys, how's it going? All right, so you guys can see a little bit, of the dollar app type thing, okay, of what it is. All right, that's the card. Hold on. All right, but see, again, you can get your cash. All right, no problemo. Easy peasy. Use it everywhere. Easy peasy. And there's other solutions at this point. There's more than just the dollar app. There's a dollar app. There's other, okay? There's other cards like that exist out there. By the way, I almost tripped and fell and ate it there. A little behind the scenes, when I was filming that scene. Anywho's, so, yeah, I forgot. I was just walking around and showing you. Anyways, all right. So that's an option, guys, okay? I'm just saying, this is an option, okay? There are many options, okay? So eventually, what I did is that once I was able to secure a U.S. bank account, eventually, okay? I was able to secure a U.S. bank account, and not only secure a U.S. bank account, but eventually open up my BBVA Mexican bank account. Okay, great. I had those two accounts, but I still need to move money. So I had back in the day, I had always heard about Wise, but it never pertained to me because it's only for bank-to-bank transfers, really. I mean, that's really what it's for. But once I had banks, a U.S. bank account and my own Mexican bank account, well, guess what? I started to use Wise, okay? And so then when I started to use Wise, well, that's what I use now all the time. That's it. That's what I use. So now when I want to move any kind of money, whatever, when I get paid from YouTube, oh, that's right, I'm demonetized. I'm not getting paid from YouTube. But you know who is paying me? You guys are paying me. Thank God for that. Amen. I want to give you guys a huge monster thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of my everything, of my inner being. Holy crap, you know what I mean? Wow, you know what I mean? You guys came through and then some. If you guys don't remember, a few weeks ago, I basically was demonetized, temporarily. We'll get monetized again at some point, hopefully in a couple months. But in the meantime, again, I was freaking out because I had to go back to work. Bills were mounting up. We had just moved. You know how it is, guys. You know what I mean? When it rains, it pours. So obviously, You know, I was at my max, and then all of a sudden that happened. You know, where I got demonetized, and then I had no choice but to basically pull out an APV. You know, a help signal from you guys that said, "Hey, look, I gotta stop making videos for a few months so I can go to work like I used to, so I can make some money so that I can pay my bills. But if you don't want me to go anywhere, well then, you know, maybe we can set up something to figure it out. To, you know, you can crowdfund me. You know, you can pay me like Netflix or, you know, Disney Plus or Jose Plus or whatever it is. Anyway, long story short, you guys came through in a huge way, and the donations are still coming in. And thank you so much, because, you know, at this point I am crowdfunded. You know what I mean? Like at this point, it's funny because when I first got the money, you know, the first few days, you know, and all the money was coming, oh wow, it was great. But then as I'm paying the bills and everything's kind of going, it's like, oh okay, and we still got, you know, a lot of you guys were right about how, you know, hey, don't just ask for a couple bucks, because, you know, this is, you know, it's going to be long term and you're going to need money and yada yada. Anyways, look, long story short, we're great. We're fine. You guys know, you guys have followed me long enough. I came out here with zero money. Okay. I came out here with 1,500 bucks left to my name 7 years ago, and I survived. Okay. On eggs, on beans. You know, I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm a da-da-da. Anyways, so we made it. We've done, you know, all kinds of things out here, okay? And you know, never asked for anything, all right? And but you know, at this point, you know, when this happened a few months ago, sorry, a few weeks ago, you know, a lot of you guys that are really good friends of mine and stuff like that, you guys are basically begging me to do something, to do a live stream, to, you know, set something like this up. And man, thank you guys so much. You know, I mean, man, you know what I mean? Like, it's been beyond amazing. Validator Reefer said, I should have asked for $10,000. Man, come on, man. I'm not that greedy. Yeah, look, if it gets there on its own, look, man, I'll be forever eternally grateful. You know what I mean? You know me. But I mean, I don't even feel comfortable. I don't even feel comfortable asking for three. I was originally just asking for two. All right. And, you know, anyways, long story short, thank God that a lot of you guys are a lot smarter than me and a lot more savvy when it comes to money than me, and have been continuing to send money, because like I said, we just moved. I had bills. I had a bunch of things, and, you know, we haven't been able to, you know, thank God to you guys, I haven't been able to miss a beat, meaning I'm still making videos. We're still going on adventures. We're still here providing useful, important information to you guys. We've been able to continue to move, you know, buy the furniture that we need, you know, the basic stuff, you know, such as closets, you know, because remember, we do the home tours and you guys are always talking about that. So look, by the way, I got a closet, guys. So for all you guys out there looking at the home tours and wondering about closets, I can get you closets now for around 250 to 500 bucks. All right. Yeah, that's right. So it's not that expensive, right? But still, it's money, and it costs money. And so when I was at negative a few weeks ago, yeah, no closets. You know, there's no furniture. You know, to put the plates and the cups in. You know, in the kitchen. Yeah, nothing. You know, but then all of a sudden you guys came through. Was able to, you know, liquidate, you know, a lot of the stress, and again, continue, you know, with the building of our home. You know, that we worked so hard on. You know, to get to and attain and stuff like that. Yeah, we do not own a home. Again, I'm still that poor. We're still that poor. We don't have that much money yet. But again, we did upgrade to a brand new rental. All right, and yeah, it's amazing. But anyways, but yeah, as of today, we've already reached over $5,000. Okay, and again, I was able to liquidate everything. Again, pay rent, you know, do everything, get the closets, you know, do a bunch of things, and, you know, we still got 2,500 left over after everything. You know what I mean? So, oh my God, you know, thank you guys, beyond thank you. And hopefully, again, that's what I originally needed, you know, 2,500. But I did not account for all the things that I had to pay for already. All right. But anyways, you know, now with this that I have left over, I mean, yeah, that's enough to hopefully get me through at least a couple months of rent, you know, food, bills. You already know all the things that amount. And if I got to get back to work, I got to get back to work. It's no big deal. But at this point, it's a big difference, because I feel, you know, like a bigger cushion. And I feel like a lot of you know, a lot of the stress has been, you know, taken away. But anyways, with that said, guys, you know, this is you know, why I continue, you know, to be out here for you guys, because you guys have now crowdfunded me to the point where, well, you know what I mean, I get to stick around. I'm not going anywhere. So now, you know, I got to provide even more knowledge, even more information, you know, even, you know, take it to the next level, which is what I'm trying to do here. So, you know, when the whole Intercam bank situation happened, okay, when that whole debacle happened, you know, to me, I was like, oh no, you know what I mean? Like, we got to really find a solution here. And like I said, it got my gears turning, and Like I told you guys already, I opened up an account for an American 6 days ago. So you can too. You can go to BBVA and open up a bank account. Again, as long as you're a resident, you're good to go. All right. So, and you do not need an RFC. Let me repeat for the thousandth time. You do not need an RFC. Many times when you think that you need the RFC, the corp, CURP, the corp will suffice. The corp is enough. What is the corp? The corp is the number that is on your residency card. So 99.99% of the time, where you think you need an RFC, you do not. Your corp that's already on your residency card is all you need. That's all you need. Because again, when we were at the bank and we were like 70% through opening the account, they asked me, the guy asked, hey, can I get your RFC? And I'm like, hey, what do you mean RFC? I blew a gasket. I'm like, whoa, you just told me that, and no, sorry. Your corp in this case, let me just get your corp. That's what we need. Like, oh, okay. Here. So just FYI, guys, you know what I mean? Like, that's it, man. So look, for anyone in the USA that's had a business, opened up a business, knows anything about that, you know that you get a tin, okay? What you call it? What's it called again? Your tax ID number. Okay, so if you open up a business in the USA, you have a thing called your TIN, TIN, okay, which is your your tax ID number. And so everything goes through your tax ID number. But guess what? If you don't have a tax ID number, guess what you have? Your social security number. All right. And you are just a sole proprietor or a private citizen. Okay. So, yes, a lot of times they ask you for your TIN, aka your RFC. Okay. Your RFC is your TIN. Your RFC is your tax ID number. But if you do not have a tax ID number, like most people do not have a tax ID number, then that is totally fine. Your social security number is enough, aka your corp, the number on your residency card. Okay? Hope that makes sense. No, not corp, corp. I mean, hold on, I'll write it down. Sorry. I know, my English not so good sometimes, Sorry. Sure, if you want a factura, you know what I mean? Of course, you would need a tax ID number. That's why you always say, no, gracias, no necesito factura. It's the same thing when you're in the USA, and they ask you for the same thing. It's like, hey, do you need like, what's it called? I forgot what it's called, man. What's it called? Like the special, it's the same thing, the same exact thing. It's like, hey, do you need this for your records, so that when you do your taxes at the end of the year, business, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. It's like, I forgot what, it's like an invoice, but I forgot the name of it. There's like an actual name for it. But it's the same thing. In the USA, they do that. But since the tax system in the USA is similar but very different than the one in Mexico, you never look. Okay, for example, let's say that you go to Costco or Restaurant Depot, you know what I mean, or something like that, or you go one of these, maybe Home Depot, or you go to one of these big stores where they sell things in bulk, or people go buy a lot of things there, or little things, meaning you'll go to Home Depot and they might even, you might have a special kind of tax or a special discount if you're a business, and then that's the regular, private citizen thing, so the same thing, when you go to these places, so that, I mean, it's just done a little differently, but it's not that different per se. Okay. Yeah, there you go, Chris Mason. So you know exactly what I'm talking about, Chris. So look, I used to have business, I used to have a tin, multiple businesses I've had. But eventually down the line, right now I don't have a tin. There's no reason for me to have a tin. I am a sole proprietor, same as you. So my social security number is enough. That's why a lot of people, when they do informal business in Mexico, they don't need no tax ID number. You know what I mean? They don't need it. They just don't need it. They're informal business per se. You know what I mean? They're like a sole proprietor. Oh, there you go. Okay, so factura is invoice. There you go. There you go. Yeah, I mean, there you go. But that's what I mean. You know what I mean? Like it's like when you're just a private citizen, you don't need an invoice. You'll get a receipt. you know. So, oh, there you go, see, Javier. So that's the thing, receipt and so that's the thing. Same thing when you're purchasing out here, you get un recibo, receipt, or factura, aka invoice, or payment thing, or whatever. I know there's another name. It's not just invoice. I know there's like some other business invoice or something. I don't know. I think it might be invoice, but it might be I don't know. Whatever, Rob. I'll leave it to you. I believe you, bro. But anyways. But you guys know what I mean. Some of you guys already get it. That work with that stuff, in the USA already. But that's it, though. I mean, when it comes to that. But look, long story short, guys, all I'm saying is that the reality is that there are tons of banking solutions for you guys out there, especially these days. Again, when I first moved out here and I had no U.S. bank and no Mexican bank, I was still able to live out here and function out here, and I didn't have to worry about anything. And I already explained to you guys how I was able to get my cash and how everything worked. All right. Eventually, once I was able to get a U.S. bank account, and eventually once I was able to get my Mexican bank account to match it, of course, it made everything so much easier. Not only did it make things so much easier, but eventually, I started to build credit. All right. And they started offering me loans and yada, yada, yada. Okay. And all these other things. So that's what I'm trying to get at. You know what I mean? So, and so a lot of people ask me, like, oh, Jose, I want to buy a house in Mexico. How do I get a mortgage or how do I get a loan? I'll say, well, first of all, you got to open up a bank account, and eventually you got to, start creating credit. I didn't have any credit when I moved here, but eventually by having a good standing bank account, okay, and there was movement in that bank account every month, eventually they started to offer me credit. And then that credit, eventually turned into a credit card, which I use every month in order to pay my bills, pay my day to day. And then when I get paid, at the end of the month, I paid the whole thing off like an American Express. So I don't get charged any interest, but I get the benefits of building my credit to the point where now they offer me bigger and bigger loans, which I don't take because, like most Mexicans, there's a reason we don't take those because it's not like the USA, okay? The interest is up next level, another planet. So, I mean, but long story short, I mean, that's eventually how it works. It's not like in the USA where you're just born and they give you a credit card and you can start destroying your credit immediately. No, 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 no. Here you got to jump through many, many hoops and do a lot of things just to get a bank account, and then eventually to start building that credit for them to allow you to build that credit. And once you do that, then after that, they're very, very careful with even, how they lend money and how they deal with all that stuff. So, because the thing is like right now, if you owe money to the bank, that's it. They got to figure out a way to get it. The bank cannot get that money from the government, like a bailout. So they're out that money. They can't garnish your wages. They can't do any of these things. So long story short, I mean, it's like they're very careful when they lend money out here because they don't have a system in order to recover it, or to recover it later on. So, uh, Travel Guru says, unless you are changing more than 1,500 a month, you don't need a bank account. Cash back seat credit card and pay. So anyways, but yeah, so look, long story short, it's like, yeah, again, not everyone out there needs a Mexican bank account. I'm sure you guys have figured that out by now. It's not everyone that needs that. But if you plan on living out here, then yeah, of course, I mean, it's a lot easier and a lot cheaper, to just have that. okay? Because you don't have to pay for all these fees all the time. You don't got to pay for, the ATM, the inconvenience, whatever. It's a lot easier. You don't got to worry about your American card, your lifeline, losing it or getting, stuck in an ATM or whatever happens. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you just, you have a Mexican bank, Mexican account, and it's your Mexican BBVA Visa card or your dollar app Mexican Visa card, MasterCard, it's going to work everywhere. Okay? You're not going to have a problem. You're not going to have a problem where you're going to be at Walmart and then your bank is declined, your card is declined and you got money in there, but the reason it's declined is because, hey, we were just protecting you from your own self because, we saw that it was a payment coming from Mexico. And then you're talking to your bank and like, bro, I've been living in Mexico for months, for years. And you've seen all the payments that go through there. Now, why did you close? Oh, for security reasons, because and you're like, Mexico's never going to do that, bro. Ever, ever. All right? Trust me. All right? Other things might happen, but that's not going to happen, So, look, all I'm saying is that, and then let's say that something like that does happen. Let's say your card is not accepted at the Walmart because maybe the system is down. It's okay. No problem. You just walk over to the ATM, get your cash out, pay. You're good to go. All right. So, I mean, I'm telling you, like, the thing is that, yeah. So, look, Chris Mason says, no wonder Mexico's mostly cash. Yeah, exactly. The reason Mexico's mostly cash is because to avoid paying taxes, to, the ease of movement of money. They don't have to worry about, the bank. Again, man, everyone, I've talked about it all the time on the channel. Doctors prefer getting paid in cash. Everyone prefers to get paid in cash. Because long story short, at some point, the more digital you become, the more dependent you become on the system. But the more cash you use, well, the less dependent you are on the system. So, most people don't like to depend too much on another entity. They like to have control over their own money, all right? And control over their own everything, So, all right, hold on a second. Let's get back to the zoo here. So, I mean, hopefully that makes sense. Mason says, are there plenty of ATMs available in Merida and Progreso? Yeah. Look, one thing is that I did notice, when I moved out here, is that there are not as many ATMs as in the USA. For whatever reason, in the USA, there's ATMs everywhere. You go to the bathroom, there's an ATM there. You go to the every gas station, there's an ATM there. You go wherever you go. You're at the zoo, there's like 78 ATMs there. Look, it's not like that here. You know what I mean? You're going to find ATMs. You go to the app, go to this, whatever. They're everywhere. They're not far away, but they're not everywhere. You know what I mean? Meaning, in the USA, you have ATMs. Like, you can walk out of your house, you got an ATM outside your house. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. But it's not like that here. Out here, if I need to go to the ATM, I most likely got to go to the bank. Or the ATM in the mall. Somewhere like that. You know what I mean? So there are not as many ATMs. But that's because, again, most people don't use the banking system as much out here. They just, they even when they get paid, most people get paid out here and they might get a direct deposit from their employer. They literally rush on payday to the bank to get the cash out. They don't trust the bank. They want to make sure they got that cash on hand. So no, you can exchange as much as you want, man. You can exchange as what they do have. That's another thing too, is that sometimes, what happens with your U.S. account and things like that, you'll have limits, daily limits. It might be a few $100. I don't know. It's like all these limits, but you don't have any kind of limit with anything. Again, you have your Mexican bank account, and no matter how much money you got in there, you can go to the bank and get that money. Go to the teller. Meaning, you can only get a certain amount of the ATM, but, you need how much you need. You go to you just talk to the teller, you got your money. So, yes, every single bank branch has multiple ATMs. Again, look, guys, I know a lot of you guys still think that Mexico is a third world country and all this other. It's not, okay? There's plenty of videos on my channel and other people's channels that you look at and you'll see it's more developed than even some parts of the USA, okay? So look, long story short, every single thing that you have back home, you have here, okay? So, of course you got ATMs. Why wouldn't you have ATMs? So just look at it like that, you know what I mean? Like, Of course. Why wouldn't we? So uh da, da, da. Yeah, Paul says, how do Mexicans store cash for a rainy day? Easy. They buy things like gold, silver. Okay. They hold some cash, but they know better. You know what I mean? It's paper money that can disintegrate. Things can happen. It loses value every day. It's unstable. As stable as it could be, it's still unstable. So the reality is that most people with their savings, there's some things that they do. One of the things is that they store it in their house. So basically, they'll dig a hole in their house. They'll put a safe in the ground. They'll put a safe somewhere in the house. So they'll hide a safe. So they got a safe. They'll do safes. Sometimes they'll get gold, silver. They'll get gold teeth. Silver coins. They have safety deposit boxes, but they're not at banks. So they have these companies out there that are like storage units, but they're specifically to hold things like gold, silver, jewelry, other expensive items, and so on and so forth. All right. So, there are ways that people do, yeah, but they don't trust the banks. So people don't trust the banks. I mean, that's how much they don't trust the banks that they would rather, dig a hole in their backyard and store it there. So yeah. Da, da, da. By the way, guys, look, another thing that you guys can do, FYI, or I mentioned this multiple times, Google is your friend. So, for example, if you want to do a ATM search, go to Google Maps, Merida, all right? Make sure you're Merida, Guadalajara, whatever city you're, okay. Anyways, go to Google Maps and just type ATM. Or, Google Translate. And be like, hey, how do you say ATM in Spanish? And then look for on Google Maps, cajero, banco, cajero, whatever. You know what I mean? The Spanish version of it, and then that's it. You know what I mean? You do things like that, and you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. All right. You'll be able to look at look at all these ATMs. Oh, look at all these restaurants. Oh, look at all these whatever the hell you're looking for. Okay. Mexico is not in the Stone Age, okay? Mexico has Google and Facebook, and we got cell phones, and we got every single thing that you have. We have, all right. We got Amazon. We got everything. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. All right. In fact, I'm not riding a donkey right now. I'm actually riding a little train. I know. Sorry. Bruh. No, anyways, I'm sorry. I'm just sometimes I can be a little bit I didn't mean to pick on you, Mason. Love you, brother. Shout out to you, man. Just fucking around, just busting some balls. All right, just busting your balls. Anyways, yeah. So that's another thing too. One thing that I love about Mexico. Again, it's not for every American. Okay, so where I come from in the USA, from Miami, I used to be a cook, a chef. Work a blue collar job. So I come from a ball busting environment. That's what I love. When I went to like Seattle and I noticed that nobody busts balls out here. Oh, I hated it. That's one of the things I did not like about Seattle. The fact that nobody was busting balls out there. I'm from the East Coast, from the kitchen, whatever, right? That kind of world. One thing I love about Mexico, I love about Mexico is that they are ultimate ball busters, okay? They are always making fun of each other, making fun of misery, making fun of, whatever. Hey, your dad died. Hey, man, that motherfucking bastard, and they're making fun of it. They're trying to laugh. They're trying to be jovial. That's why, like, some people that come to Mexico from other countries, I'm not necessarily Americans or Canadians. Some Europeans. They might come from other countries that are a little bit more, not as how do I say this? You know what I'm saying? Like, Latinos, you know what I mean? Like very personable and talking about busting balls. They hate it out here. They don't understand. They think that, they're making fun of me. They hate me. They this, they that. And they're like, no, 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 no. It's just, this is how it is out here, man. Everybody. Like I said, we very recently had a family kind of tragedy situation. I don't want to get into details there. And the only way, I mean, how about this? People were coming up to me and saying, man, thank God that you're here, Jose, man. You're keeping everybody in stitches and laughing because, man, right now, You know what I mean? We all want to be crying or sad. It's a bad moment right now. And but that's the thing. And like they get it though. You know what I mean? That's the thing. That's what I love about Mexico. It's very much like that. It's there's always light at the end of the tunnel. You gotta laugh. You know, life sucks. I mean, here they celebrate death, man. You know, the Day of the Dead. They literally laugh in the face of death. You know, they celebrate death. They're not, you know, they don't get sad about it per se. It's more about celebrate. We gotta celebrate life. You know, we gotta like live life. You know, we gotta just, you know. So yeah. It's a different world out here, but yeah, I forgot what I was saying. Anyways, yes, this is the local zoo. There's two zoos in Merida, but this is el Zoológico de Bicentenario, whatever. It's right by look, it's Zoológico Centenario, and this is the oldest zoo. And this zoo is right by its centro, close. Again, if you're out here, if you're visiting Merida, you definitely got to check it out because it's a stone's throw away from its centro, and it's fun. You know, like I said, you've seen the zoo in the video. Look here, I'll show you some more. Look at how close the animals are. Look how close that is. I remember, I love bringing when my sister brings the kids and stuff like that. I love bringing them to like the zoo because I mean, come on, you know how the zoos are in the USA. You see the ostrich, but it's like 700 meters away. You know, here you got the tiger. You know, right there. I mean, in fact, you know, look, yeah, there's like a tiger, the hippo. Look at that. Look at the hippo. Look how close they are, man. You know what I mean? So I love the zoo here. I love it. So. But anyways, it is what it is. I know. I always go off on tangents. You know, we always. But anyways, in fact, well, let's use the last few minutes of the live stream here. You know, for questions. I know many of you guys might still have questions about everything, but I hope that in today's video, I have been able to again shed some light on banking. Just like last week we did immigration, and I shed a lot of light. Okay, on your immigration options and the fact that hey, it's not so bleak as many other YouTubers or other people might make it seem. You can actually get your residency. And again, it might be, you know, it's difficult. You know, things in Mexico sometimes are more difficult than they need to be. Don't get me started on that. I'll probably do a live stream just on that in the future. Yes, Mexico has that problem where things sometimes are just way more difficult than they need to be. But with that said, it's still done. It's still doable, and it's still not that big a deal. It's really not. You know, don't be. You know, when there's a will, there's a way, and it can be done. Okay, and you'd be surprised sometimes as to how well things actually work out for you. So again, in the case of immigration, we already talked about it last week. You really got nothing to worry about for the most part. Okay, most of you guys, at some point, eventually, you can figure out a way to qualify legally, no problem. Again, even if you're, retired and you're only getting $1,200 a month from Social Security, you can still get it. Okay. Oh, but Jose, I heard you need 4,000. Listen, I know you heard, just like you heard you need an RFC, and you heard you can't get a bank account, and you heard. I know this. I know you've heard many things. That's why I do these videos, these live streams. That's why I get so much hate from so many other YouTubers and so many people out there that actually make a living, okay, from you not knowing this stuff, okay? But this is why, again, you guys have been so helpful to me. You guys, made it rain. You guys made it pour the other day when I needed a few bucks, and you guys took it to the next level. It's because I'm out here, giving you all this stuff. And why do I do this? Why do I do this? It's because my mom didn't give me enough attention and I need as many views as possible. I'm sorry. That's not what I meant to say. Wait. Oh, oops. A little bit too... Bruh. No, actually, I'm always messing around with you guys about that. But look, that is part of the reason. But another part of the reason is because, look, again, my dad was an educator. When I was a chef, that's the most pleasure I got from cooking. Which is, by the way, that's what we're going to do, the cooking channel real soon again. The most pleasure I got, was teaching other people. I used to remember bringing in dishwashers, man. They barely even knew how to read or write or even the language sometimes. And they would come out of there chef. They would come out of there, they were... they were graduated from Jose's School of Hard Knocks, whatever. And that was like my proudest moment, doing that all the time. That's why I loved being in the kid. That's the one thing I loved the most. And the same thing here. I love to teach you guys new things, or teach you guys things that, you might not know about. Or again, or even at least give you the balls to go out there, the information, the knowledge to go out there and get it done on your own. Whatever. the confidence, the motivation, the reality. Again, look, we're at the zoo. Look how close we got the tiger. You know what I mean? I get you that close, guys. I bring you that close to reality out here. And again, why do I do that? Well, because I know this is a very, very difficult move, a very difficult decision for a lot of people to do. And, not everyone is in the same boat. When I first moved out here, I was in a different mindset and boat, and I had to get out of Dodge. Some of you guys are in that same situation. Some of you guys aren't. Some of you guys have families. Some of you guys have all these things, and it's a different situation. So this is why I show you everything about living out here. Okay. So you know what it looks like. You know what to expect, whether you like it or not. Some of you guys thank me. You guys literally thank me. Hey, bro, thank you for showing me what Mexico looks like. I don't want to move to Mexico. I'm going to stay here and rough it out in Nashville or wherever you're at, And then some of you guys are like, man, thank you for showing me Mexico. I can't wait to go to Mexico. I can't wait to go back home to Mexico or whatever it is, And then some of you guys are dying to come out to Mexico, but you can't even think. You can't even put that, thought in your brain about leaving and moving to Mexico because, well, you were told you can't get a bank account. You were told you can't get residency. You were told it's too expensive. You were told that people are mean to you. You were told all these things. Okay? But again, this is why I mean, I'm sure I tell you things, we talk about it here, but this is why, again, most of my videos, I just put the camera, I face it forward, and I let that and everything else speak for itself. I let my audience speak for me, when it comes to these things. You know what I mean? Sure, I might have, again, we got negative Nancy's out there in the chat, in the comment section, and they'll be like, oh, no, he's lying. Sure, whatever. And then we have 15 other people saying, no, you're lying. Jose's 100% correct. I got my bank account in Guanajuato. I got my bank account over here. I got my residency over here. Let me show you how I did it. And you guys step it up. We built a community here. We built a giant. Again, this is how we do things, okay? That's how it takes a village to raise a child or whatever it is, And so we're out here all helping each other. Some of you guys are still in the USA or Canada or stuck wherever you're at. Some of you guys have been here for years. Some of you guys just got here. It doesn't matter. We're all helping each other out because look, for some of you guys that just got here, you have information that only you would have when you got here. Why? Because I've been here 7 years. I forgot when people ask me, hey, Jose, what would you bring from the USA? If you're, I don't know. I lived 7 years ago. I don't, that's not a problem for me anymore. I have everything here. I don't need anything from the USA. The only thing that the USA brings me are headaches. All right. I'm good to go. But I get it. You know what I mean? Like, if I really think about it, well, maybe I would bring an extra pair of shoes. Maybe I would bring But for some of you guys that just landed here, well, that's a question you guys can answer immediately. So you guys help out in the comments. That's what I mean. Like we all have different levels of knowledge, experience, information, yada, yada, yada. And the only way that we can really help each other out, okay? Again, pay it forward, whatever it is, is by helping each other out. Again, sorry. You know what I mean? So again, that's us paying it forward. A lot of you guys, when you guys were sending me money, again, I was in dire need of it, and you guys, thank you again, thank you. But anyways, when you guys were helping me out, some of you guys, you guys already moved here. You guys already been living here. You didn't need to send me money. But why did you send me money? Well, because of all the information, of how the fact that you got here and you're thankful for being here, and now not only are you thankful, and you're like, man, I gotta pay this guy back. You know what I mean? I gotta help him out. He helped me out so much. I got this amazing life now. Thanks to him. Let me help him out. But it's not even about helping him out. It's about helping all those out there that have still yet to open up a bank account, to get their residency, to watch these videos, to even take that first step. And so again, for a lot of you guys, you understand that it's like, what we're doing here is a much greater, okay, than just making some videos. Again, we know the world is falling apart. We know things are getting crazier and crazier. By the way, no, someone's asking me in the chat like 100 times, do I miss the US? No. Okay? I'm American. I'm proud to be an American. But no, I don't miss the USA. In fact. But anyways, long story short, you guys know what we're doing. We're building community. We're building something together. Yada, yada, yada. We're helping each other out because there's bigger things coming. And that's another story for another day. In fact, we're going to talk about that on my live stream on the other channel. You guys know I have another channel. Okay, and you guys also know that I go live every single Thursday as soon as I'm done here. So as soon as I'm done with this live stream, we go live over there. So guess what? We're about to go over there because this time, time's a ticking. I gotta go. All right. So, and what are we gonna be talking about today? Well, in fact, maybe you know what? Maybe it's Mavs or Mav, whatever. Dallas Mav. Anyways, look, maybe he was asking me in anticipation for this. Maybe he already saw what we're going to be doing on Unleashed today, and he was just asking me, in order for me to, get my juices flowing so we can talk about this because, well, you already know I'm very passionate about this. Man, one of the things that really grinds my gears is when they say I'm a traitor or when they say I hate the USA or why am I so critical of the USA. Again, we're going to go super into detail because it's a 4th of July after all on Friday, so tomorrow. So we're going to be talking about that. And, in fact, before you guys go. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Okay. So the thing is like it says right there, I love my country. My country might not love me so much, okay? This is why I prefer to just stay here. I'm as an American citizen living abroad. It is what it is. There are many soldiers, there are many people that live abroad that are proud American citizens. I am a proud American citizen. I might not be very happy with my government right now, and I have not been happy with my government for a very long time, very, very, very long time. And that has not changed at all. And at the very least, I would just, why I love Mexico so much is because my parents were immigrants. My parents came to the USA, and they, were able to live the American dream, and I was promised the American dream, and yeah, it basically became the American nightmare. And so, to me, why am I so critical? Why do I, act, talk about certain things a certain way? Is because I love my country so much. I love it so much. I love it so freaking much. I'm so proud to be an American that it hurts me. It hurts me to see what it's turned into. And again, it is what it is. And I hope things turn around. And I hope things get better. But we'll get into it in 30 minutes on my other channel. We'll get really into it. Okay, you know me. But yeah, long story short, guys. Of course, I miss the States. Like being honest. Of course, there's certain things I miss, but I don't miss anything. Like honestly, the one thing that I always missed while I was living in the USA, the one thing that I missed the most was something that I thought I could never have, which was freedom. And as an American, a hardcore, super duper American, well, that's it. It's just freedom. There ain't nothing but freedom. Everything else is secondary, right? And the fact that we don't have freedom in the USA, I mean, that's why I can't. I can't. But I do have freedom here. I got tons of freedom here, and it's not for everybody. But I mean, this is why I live here. I get to live like an American here. I get to be free here. So that's it. So do I really miss it? And I don't. I don't miss anything about the USA because I got everything here. I got my McDonald's here. I got my Walmart here. I got my rock and roll music here. I got my everything here. What am I missing? I got my YouTube. I got you guys. I mean, what am I missing? You know. So anyway, but like I said, we'll go into detail because there's more to say about that. I was just talking to you from the Mexican perspective here. So, you should start a topic on Americans buying massive property in Mexico and doing Airbnbs but driving Mexicans out. Yes, I've actually talked about that, Alex Rubio. I've actually talked about it in depth multiple times about gentrification, and I've actually gone so deep into it that some of you guys get upset because you realize that Mexicans are the ones that are really doing it. It's not Americans. And there's a lot of fake propaganda, fake news out there. Again, that's what we've been talking about today when we were talking about the banks. We're talking about immigration. We're talking about all these other things. And this is no different. So a lot of you guys have been also lied to. Again, you've been lied to thinking that all these Americans are buying everything. That's not the case. Again, it's Mexicans. In fact, I'm going to leave it with this. You know what I'm going to be talking about, Alex Rubio, in the very near future. And by the way, I'm going to say it because I don't think anyone's going to beat me to it, but if they do, hey, please, let's start the conversation. But you guys have heard of gentrification, right? Gentrification, and you're blaming all the gentrification on Americans or Canadians or foreigners. I've done the research, and a lot of Mexicans have also done the research, and the reality is that 90% of all gentrification is being caused by other Mexicans. But guess what? It's there's a new term coming out, a new wording, a new description to this gentrification going on because, well, you can't hide it anymore. And the reality is, it's what the word is now. You know what the term is now. That's starting to kind of gain steam in Mexican social media. It's called narco narcofication, which is what I've been telling you guys for years. Okay, all right, how they launder the money. Most of you guys know. Especially if you know me from my other channel, you guys know this information. I'm not the only one. This is as a CIA. Anyways, look, the point I'm making is that they launder that money and they build businesses and they create the things that you see all around you. Okay, so a lot of the gentrification that's going on these days is narco gentrification. And again, don't listen to me. It's all over Mexican, whatever. Okay, so look, man, I'll say it in Spanish. Los mexicanos, okay, son lo que son los dueños de los negocios y son los dueños de las viviendas. Ellos son los mismos que suben la renta y suben los precios y ponen todo en otro idioma. Lo mismo que pasa en todos los países. I had to say it in Spanish because I don't want any. Okay, all I said was that what happens in Mexico is the Mexican business owners and Mexican landlords are the ones that raise the prices, change the menus, and cater to whoever's bringing in the money. This happens all over the planet, okay? Everywhere. And I get it. It is a problem. Airbnbs, all these things are a huge problem. I get it. I totally get it. But for you to blame, one tiny little group of people, no, man. No. Ubícate, brody. All right? Get your facts straight. All right? That's not really the situation. All right? So Alex Rubio says, answer me this. Why are the lines so long at the American Council for Americans to get residency? It's because there's a lot of Americans want to move here. There are 35 plus million Mexicans living in the USA, and there are still only 2 million Americans living here. And most of them are retired. Ya no chingue más, brody. I'm basically saying stop, what is it? Stop being a little, whatever. Okay, come on, man. I can do this all day. In fact, I do this all day. This is what I do for a living. And I don't got time to discuss this. We got to get to the other channel. So with that said, okay, Alex Rubio, si tú quieres saber más información sobre todos estos temas, por favor, ve a mi canal. Y en mi canal, sin problema ninguno, yo tengo todos los topics, ¿ok? De que tú estás preguntando, de gentrificación, de lo que te imagines, ¿ok? Y lo hablo mucho en detalle. Por favor, ve allá y no solo hablar, no solo oír mis perspectivas, pero también cuéntame la tuya y vamos a tener una discusión y vamos a hablar sobre el tema, all right? Just talking to him in Spanish, basically saying, hey, go check out my other videos. Let's have a discussion. I've talked about this in depth, all right? And I would love to hear your opinion, and I would love to, continue doing this. So, am I available? Mason says, am I available for one-on-one calls? Yes, of course. I don't do Telegram. I don't have Telegram. But if you want to set up a one-on-one consultation, okay, please, by all means, go to my website and right where it says personalized consultations, all the way at the top, there are multiple links, but just go there and explains everything, okay? We're doing pesos again because, again, the dollar to peso thing is kind of... So anyways, a lot of you guys, by the way, this is how you helped me out the last week or so. You guys set up a bunch of consultations. I've been very busy with a lot of consultations. That's how you guys have, been helping the show out by just setting up a consultation and talking to me about whatever, or your move to Mexico. So again, if you want to continue help out the show, and again, get more information and, personalize one-on-one, again, ask me anything. There's many things I can't talk about on YouTube or you guys can't ask me about. So look, please, this is why I do those consultations. All right. So if you're interested, that's what you need to do. Just go to my website and, click on the links and that's it. Anyways, that's it. Where did Alex Rubio go? He left. Oh no. I guess he got upset. Anyways, whatever. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to upset you, Alex. Truth hurts sometimes. I didn't mean to hurt you there. Um, and I think that's it. So, okay, that's it. That's it. I gotta go. I gotta go. All right, I can keep going reading questions, but I really gotta go. All right, guys. Look, guys, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. You guys are the best. Again, I want to give a super monster, insane shout out to all of you guys that have helped, not only get my goal, but surpass my goal. And those that are continuing to help the show because, again, many of you guys were right. I did need a little bit more than what I was asking for, but it doesn't matter. I got enough. I got plenty. We're not going to we're not going to starve. We're definitely going to survive. We got plenty of money for eggs and beans and even meat. Okay, we can buy chicken and meats and what's it, tuna in a can? What's it called? The chicken of the sea. Oh man, I haven't seen that in forever.
Bruh.
Anyways, but look, long story short, thank you guys, man. You guys really, really helped us, get our head above water. And again, continue to thank you guys, all of you guys that have, continued to donate, contribute, help the show out. Again, set up a consultation, or again, simply, watch my videos. I know I'm not getting any ad revenue right now, but we will soon, and as soon as we get remonetized in a month or so, and that's it, guys. You already know the deal. Again, thank you guys so much. I really really love you guys. All right, Alex Rubio, one last thing. Okay, he says, I do follow you, Jose. I've been watching your videos and I give likes and I do educate myself, and that's what's going on in Mexico. But I do know that Americans, it's a business deal what they... Bro, so if you know all this and you are Mexican and you are everything, then I don't know what's the problem. I mean, really, you're really gonna sit here and believe the fact that all the gentrification happening all across Mexico is being caused by a tiny group of Americans? Or like BlackRock is out here purchasing things like in the USA? No, it's not. It's not happening at all. Like I said, okay, and it's already been proven. Like I said, I saw it in a news thing. It's already starting to make its waves through the news. Narcos, okay? Narcos are going to definitely 1000%, beat BlackRock or any American out there, to the punch. Buying the property, gentrifying it themselves. Okay? Por favor. Okay, so, and I think that, and honestly, I love you, bro. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for all the love and support, you and everybody else. But I really do think there's a lot more to it than that, because it's the same thing when Americans in the USA, those immigrants, they took our jobs. Oh, really? The immigrants took your jobs? Really? You sure about that? You sure? Are you sure about that? What's that meme from the guy? Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Are we sure about that? So anyways, I'm sure about that. So the same thing. Okay, I go after all those Americans as well in the USA that also have it backwards, and they say stupid things like, "Oh, the immigrants have taken our jobs." No, they haven't. No, they haven't. The jobs are there. Go do them. Go do them. Oh, you don't want to do them? You don't want to do them because you think you deserve more money, or you don't want to work out in the fields, or you don't want... Go home. Then go home and collect your check from the government. Okay. Okay. All right. So that's the way I look at it. All right. That's the way I see it. Okay. And the same thing out here. No me chingues, okay? Like, are you kidding me? Americans coming out. I know there are Americans coming out here investing. Of course there are. There are companies coming out here. There are corporations, I mean, come on. You don't even have to go that far. I mean, just look at, like I was talking earlier, McDonald's, Burger King. I can go on and on, right? Walmart. I mean, there's tons of American influence out here. But are they taking over Mexico? No, they're not. No, I've been living here in Mexico 7 years, man. There is not... No. If I even got any inclination, and even a hint that was really happening, I wouldn't be here, bro. I'd be in Argentina, man. I would have been out of here already, man. Mexico's Mexico. And yes, there's a huge American influence because we're neighbors. And I mean, don't get me started, okay? That's what's helped me. Again, a lot of you guys probably wonder, how do me and my wife get along? I mean, how do we have like all these... There's more cultural references that I understand with my wife than I ever thought in a million years. Like I've talked about in other videos before, she watches American, she watches Malcolm in the Middle, Futurama, The Simpsons. We grew up with the same thing, okay? Literally the same thing. We literally grew up with the same thing. They just have a Mexican twist on it. That's all it is. But I mean, yeah. So, all right, we got to go. It's like, how do we flow into? No, you got to switch videos because everything's on a different channel, guys. So I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I got to end my live stream here and I got to go live over there because it's two completely different animals. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to send you the link because I know I haven't done anything like that because I'm so lazy here talking crap as always. What did I do here? Ay, ay, ay. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys the link so you guys can follow me over there, and hope to see you guys over there, and you guys can see how proud I am to be an American. All right, guys, I gotta go. All right, because I'm gonna be late anyway. All right, so we gotta change the time on that too. All right, love you guys, appreciate you guys. Thanks again for watching. Thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you guys on the next live stream. See you guys on Sunday, and I'll see you guys on Thursday, and I'll see you guys, same bat channel, same bat time. Love you guys. Peace. Bye, guys.